Time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catalfamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Countywide. I'm your host Philip Catalfamo. I'd like to thank you for joining me. On today's show we're talking reopening, and my guest over the phone or remotely today is Zachary Fountain, Director of Communications and Public Relations for Flagstaff Unified School District. Zach, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as we all know, all the school districts are continuing to implement and put in their new reopening plans. So Zach, what is the reopening plan for Flagstaff Unified?
Well, that's a great question. Thanks again for having us and the opportunity to share this information. We understand families have a lot of questions about what the new school year is going to look like. And on Wednesday, July 1st, our governing board approved the new, what we're calling the safely opened plan. And what it's going to do is highlight that we have three options in terms of providing education to students going into the 2021 school year. And what we are offering is we're coming up with an in-person model. We're required to do that under the governor's executive order. And so we're putting all those materials in place, additional safety standards and protocols, really to make sure that we would be able to hold that in-person model. We're also going to be offering what's called a flexible remote model. That'll be where families will be able to access their child's education digitally. And so you'll see a lot of things in terms of classes being done online, video conferencing, those types of things if families feel that that's more safe and a better alternative for their family. And then we're also continuing what's called Northern Arizona distance learning. Now, we have offered this since I believe 2001, and the and what it does is it allows students to take classes at their own pace. This is offered for grades 7 through 12th right now. We're working on a waiver to expand that down to 5th. And so families would be able to do that as well. So those are really the three options. Encompassed in all of these plans are making sure that we provide various safety standards. So, we will be requiring masks for people that are going to be in person, enhanced cleaning practices throughout the district. We're talking about everything about how do you wipe down buses in between routes? How do you place people on buses? How do we augment our facilities to make sure that we can improve social distancing practices? And then also in terms of, what does it look like for dining when it comes to breakfast and lunch? So there's a lot of different moving parts in the plan, and we're really focused on getting that information out to the community. The full plan is going to be available at www.fusd1.org/safely-forward.
Okay, as we all know, last week, Governor Doug Ducey put out a new executive order, and Superintendent of Public Instruction Kathy Hoffman also said that the new start date for the school year will be August 17th. Now, I know that you guys from the jump have probably been putting together your initial Plan A, but now you've had to go to that Plan B. How has the plan adjusted to that new start date?
Yeah, and so as Superintendent Pence always says, we need to be nimble in the way that we're navigating things, and that's never been more true than with COVID-19. So the executive order really said that you couldn't hold in-person classes before August 17th. We're evaluating what our options are in terms of that. We were planning on starting a couple of days before. So we're making all of these decisions within, CDC guidelines, working with our county health professionals in terms of making those decisions. And so for us, we know where the 17th is, but we also know that things can change. And so what we're really trying to do is prepare in any way that we can to continue to provide all of our services, whether we're going to be able to do it in person or not. So the real big date for us coming up is going to be our July 14th board meeting. We're planning on doing some calendar updates at that point, and we'll have some more information for families at that point.
You talk about, you have this new plan, but if we do have a change in structure and in what we're doing for the schools, are you guys ready for another Plan C? Are you guys ready to implement a Plan C and possibly make some more adjustments if we, like you said, COVID-19 is very mysterious, it's very unknown, and you kind of have to prepare that way. Are you guys ready for something like that?
Yeah, and really we're preparing just to be flexible. So we're trying. It's twofold, Philip, right? Like we want some predictability for our families, and so we're trying to get all of these plans out there so that people understand what we're considering, and then trying to make real clear processes in terms of what we can do. There are outside factors that dictate whether or not we can do things in facilities or not. Whether we're able to hold events with so many people or not, and so we express appreciation to our families for being patient with us. We're working with a lot of extenuating factors in terms of planning for the new year.
Strict makeup for time lost. As you mentioned, you guys were initially going to start in-class sessions a few days before the 17th, but now you have to push it after the 17th. So are you going to shorten summer break, or shorten winter break or Thanksgiving break, or how are you guys going to make up that time lost?
Again, we're evaluating that process, and really the July 14th meeting is when we would make any calendar decisions that way. There are some districts that are looking at starting in terms of being in that flexible remote. And so since the executive order came out just a week ago, we're adapting and making sure that we're making those decisions, because, that pivot means, okay, what does that mean for the distribution of technology resources for families if you're going to start in a flexible remote environment? What does that mean for the distribution of hotspots? We still have to have people gather and do those types of things in a registration environment at the beginning of school year. You can think of all the events that happen to get things lined out for the beginning of the year. And now we have to, figure out what does that look like digitally. And so with families that may or may not have access online. And so we're trying to figure out all of those things. And we know people want answers. We want to provide them. We're just working as fast as we can.
Yeah, and I think you guys have done a really good job about putting in your plan in place. You got 3 different plans. You've got the in-person, you've got the online, and then you've got the distance learning, which is great. And I think it's a good approach to get this going. And you mentioned earlier some of the in-person protocols you guys are going to be putting in place. We've got just a minute here, and we might take this to the other side. But how are you guys going to approach the guidelines for the younger kids and up to the high school level?
Yeah. So, are you asking specifically about masks and those types of things? Yeah,
exactly. Yes, that is specifically what I'm asking about.
Yeah. So there's been some changes in terms of health guidelines over the last 3 weeks, and so prior it had been really right now what we're operating under is anybody 2 years old and older needs to be masked. That's what's coming out from the health professionals. But I will say that we have a number of extenuating factors when it comes to like special education and sensory impairment and those types of things. And we've put together some processes in terms of working with individual families to make sure that we can adjust.
Well, you've got a lot to decide and a lot to figure out. That website is, again, www.fusd1.org. Their phone number is 928-527-6000. We've got just a couple seconds here before we send it to break. Zach, it seems like you guys have been having to make a lot of changes, and hopefully you'll be able to implement all 3 of these plans. We will continue to talk about these plans and a lot more regarding reopening for the Flagstaff Unified School District when we come back on the other side of this break. Countywide will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. You know, Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
So I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
I want to welcome you back here to Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. We are continuing our conversation about reopening, and my guest remotely today is Director of Communications and Public Relations for Flagstaff Unified School District, Zachary Fountain. Zach, before we sent it to break, we talked about the guidelines, and you mentioned there is an in-person option, there is the distance learning option, and then there's also the online option. And a lot of high schools are having to look into that online option. I know I've had experience with online classes through college, never through high school. And let me ask you this, do you feel that the state has helped the district transition to online learning?
Well, what I'll tell you is that we have a long existing relationship as it applies to Northern Arizona distance learning. Really, the state's been flexible in terms of what those parameters look like. There's actually what's called AOI, and I'm losing the abbreviation right now, but it's really a separate structure in terms of, how grades are calculated and achievement scores and things like that are calibrated. I will say that the state's been really helpful on a number of different fronts through the COVID-19 situation, working with us in terms of flexibility of days in the spring, also figuring out waivers so that we can provide things like meal service. And so they've been really receptive. There's a lot of people looking at different things, and we just appreciate the state working with us as we try to figure out alternatives to systems and the offerings that we can have.
Now, obviously, you guys are going to be making some big changes, like you just said, with the online learning. Will there be any staffing changes in any of the schools or through the districts just to kind of accommodate this change?
So we're continuing to evaluate, various staff positions and those types of things. Really, what I would like to say is that we're basing our decisions moving forward on, figuring out how many students we're going to have for next year. And so actually today we're going to be issuing a family survey that is going to ask for folks to designate, what are their plans for next year? What are the 3 models that they want to be in? And so when we talk about staffing changes, what we're really talking about is if we have more families that choose that flexible remote learning, how are we going to augment our master schedules to ensure that, we have coverage for maybe a strictly an online course or an in-person. And so this survey that goes out today is going to be really important for our families in terms of just sharing what are their plans right now. The sooner they can get that back, we can make more plans, and then also prepare and make sure all essential resources are available for the plans that they have for the coming year.
And like you said, the comfortability of bringing the kids back onto campus, do you think that you're going to see, I know you're not going to see the exact same numbers, obviously, but do you think you're going to see more kids maybe looking at homeschooling options, or I should say parents looking at homeschool options, as the numbers potentially in class go down, as you'll have the options with the online learning, but not a lot of people have access to that. So do you think you'll see similar numbers in person, or a lot more people looking at alternate options?
We don't know. That's the reason for the survey, is that, we're dealing with a disruptive time in terms of, across entire society, in terms of how this is impacting normal operations for every business and organization. And so data is going to be key for us in terms of making those allocations of resources. And so we're just really appreciative that our team has been flexible in understanding that, our parents and families, they do have concerns about what this looks like, and so we're working to adapt to meet their needs.
You talk about the team here. Do you guys have enough substitutes to help out with in the event that somebody gets sick or somebody maybe can't make the transition to online? Do you guys have enough subs?
That's something that we're always working on. I couldn't answer you directly in terms of what a number of subs is going to look like, but they really are unsung heroes within our district, and we're appreciative of all of them. Our commitment is to continue to work with them and understand what's going on going forward so that we can plan appropriately.
Now, what about how about just in general? Is the staff ready to make that transition to online learning and teach online?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have been providing a number of different trainings throughout the summer so that we can move to that centralized learning management system. All of our classes are full. It really shows that our teachers are really looking for that advancement. We do believe that we're going to be able to pivot. One of the major concerns that came out of our parent surveys in May was just, that there was variation from class to class and how various people were operating. And so they've really been working hard to make the transition this summer to the new learning management system and really have that new resource ready to go on day one. With the changes to the alteration of the schedule, we are also looking, what is the possibility of doing a couple of specific training professional development days as it relates to the digital environment. And so we'll hopefully have some more information soon out of that July 14th meeting.
Now, what about, we talk about the online learning, obviously. What is the biggest concern tech-wise to getting kids to learn online?
Yeah, great resource. Great question. So a year ago, it would have been device accessibility. We're fortunate that we had our bond passed in our community. We have been able to purchase iPads for all of our students in the district. This last year, we rolled out to all secondary schools, so high school and middle schools, the iPads. So they were able to have those going into the COVID-19 shutdown in the spring. What we've been ramping up and we were planning to roll out this fall was for elementary schools. And so we're still moving forward with that plan and able to distribute those devices. Now, the thing that we're running into is just accessibility of data. And so 2 governing board meetings ago, we approved the purchase of 500 hotspots that we'll be able to distribute to families that say that they need access to data for strictly educational purposes, and it has all the filters and those types of things that we try to keep within our digital environments within our school sites. So that's really broadband and data distribution is the issue that concerns us a lot, because it's about equity, right? We want to make sure that we're providing a quality education to all students, not just those that can afford an internet connection. And so as we make that transition, we want to make sure that resource is available, and we've got a plan that is working. We know that we've got the hotspots coming in time for the beginning of the school year.
Yeah, I remember the last time you were here, we were talking about you guys rolling out those iPads. I mean, you didn't have that snazzy beard last time, but this time they've got to help significantly with that transition. And like you said, getting the approval for those hotspots in those areas that desperately need that internet connection for those kids to keep learning. It's great that you guys have been on top of that and continuing to roll that stuff out, because it helps with that transition from, okay, we were in class last year, but this year we got to do things a little differently. But we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to keep talking about reopening with Director of Communications and Public Relations for Flagstaff Unified School District, Zachary Fountain. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
From inspiration to installation.
If you need help with your decorating plan, call the pros at the Picture Window. We are your #1 source for top quality blinds, shades, shutters, and flooring. We've been in business here for 41 years, and our delightful sales staff has decades of experience. We're the locally awarded Best of the Best in both Sedona and the Verde Valley.
Don't pass up a free estimate on your project. Call the Picture Window now.
Paul Stanley here with Stanley Steel Structures. We offer shade structures that provide style, value, and performance. Our Equinox louvered roof opens and closes to give you the ultimate patio experience. We also offer Alumawood shade covers that looks like wood but lasts like steel and never needs painting or maintenance. Visit us at StanleySteelStructures.com. Contact us today and be covered tomorrow. Stanley Steel Structures. Let us add some space to your place.
The EPA says C&B Construction ranks in the top 1% nationally. C&B Construction invites you to see what energy efficiency and indoor air quality can be. We have won another Department of Energy Innovation Award, and C&B Construction is the only contractor in the country to win 6 consecutive EPA Indoor Air Plus awards. Experience our zero-energy, move-in ready homes at Crossroads at Mingus.
C&B Construction, locally respected, nationally recognized. Find out more at C&B Homes.com.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
I want to welcome you back here to Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. My guest over the internet today is Zachary Fountain, Director of Communications and Public Relations for Flagstaff Unified School District. We are talking about reopening. Zach, we talked about the 3 pillars of the reopening plan, the in-person, the online, and the distance learning. But there are obviously some other things that need some figuring out. How will the district handle sports, special needs, and their food programs?
Great question. So in terms of athletics, we're following the AIA protocols. And so, you know, we were starting to phase up in terms of more accessibility as it pertained to training and exercise and getting ready for the school year. You know, we're just about to enter into phase 2 in terms of practices and those types of things. But with the changes that have happened with executive orders, we're going back to our phase 1 with limited contact, you know, no sharing of sports equipment, those types of things. And so, you know, it's been a step forward, step back, but we continue to monitor that. Again, we have to ensure that we're following health and safety protocols as it relates to athletics. And so we're really following the decision matrix that's been outlined by the AIA, and we'll continue to do so. In terms of, you know, special education and special needs, we're really working through each of our plans to make sure that we're able to provide all of our supports that we would in a regular environment. Now, they might look different. So instead of an in-person meeting, it may be a digital meeting. And so we're working to make sure that we incorporate all of these different standards and are federally aligned. You know, we've even gone to the extent of talking, you know, with, you know, federal regulators to understand, you know, if we have something in the law that's very specific to this, how does that look in a digital environment when people can't meet in person? And so we're getting clarification on those types of things, and we'll be sharing out that information as well. I believe the last part that you had was about food programs.
Correct.
We continue to adapt according to what the situation is. And so if we're able to do in person, we're looking at ways that we can encourage social distancing. One, you know, we're working through our plan, and we just assumed, hey, you know, everybody's going to eat in their classroom, maintain their social distance. And then we found out, you know, kindergartners through 3rd grade, you know, those trays are pretty heavy and we're going to have a lot of spills and those types of things. And so we've been working with principals. Like, these are the level of details that we're getting into with everything. And so we figured out how we're going to try to do alternate seating and those types of things for K through 3rd grade in our lunchrooms to establish more space. And then from there on, make sure that we're able to do dining in the lunchroom. For high schools and middle schools, we're actually figuring out what different point of sale options are. So if we can distribute those through the building, so there's not central location. And then also, how do you disperse students in different ways so that they're all not going out into the hallways at once? And so there's a lot of different moving parts, but, you know, we're working through all of those plans.
Well, Zach, I appreciate you taking the time. Again, Zachary Fountain, Director of Communications and Public Relations for Flagstaff Unified School District. That reopening plan can be found on their website, FUSD1.org. Zach, thank you very much. Stay safe. And with that, we're going to end this episode. I want to thank you for watching and listening. Have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you again next time.